Years of study, watching YouTube videos, reading books, Googling what I don't know, it eventually hit me that, hey, there could be some easier ways to work around this. We do not need to be the next Mozart or Bach. However, we can learn the basics and employ methods from understanding the basics to work faster. Because one of the most important things about being a music producer or an artist or creator is developing a good workflow. If I start from the left, I will notice that there are white keys. These white keys come all the way to the bottom. However, there are some other keys, these black keys over here. They do not extend to the bottom, and there's a reason for that. The reason is they are our dividers. Like a file divider, we are going to say dividers, and they help separate our keys. But where did these dividers come from? Well, many years ago, people decided, hey, this is a sound, and this sound can be measured. And this sound that I'm measuring using my ears, because there were no computers, I will assign a name. And over time, the names of these keys had frequencies attached to them. Now let's look again at that word, frequency, measured in capital H, small z. These frequencies sounded pleasing to the ears of Mozart, Bach, Tchaikovsky, Wagner, and people put it together in a structure. And the structure that we know uses the first 7 letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If you take an old piano, an 88-key grand piano, and if you start on the left, it starts on A0. It works its way up. Let me see if I can replicate that over here. So it would probably be somewhere from here. And we would have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then we'd start on A again. But what's the link between the frequencies and these letters? Well, each letter has a specific frequency assigned to it. For example, A has a frequency of 440 Hertz. And when we go up, the frequency changes and it increases all the way until we get to A again. So, for example, let us say that our A over here is 440 Hertz. Okay, a key has a pitch, and the pitch goes up as we go up. Let's go B, C, E, E, F, G, A. Okay, I'm at A again, but this A is different. The pitch is different. When I reached my next A, my pitch doubled. Oh no, there's mathematics in music theory. Why? This can help you. Whoops, 880. Understanding this, we learn that when this A, let's say this was A0, became A1, the pitch doubled and the sound or the note went up what's called an octave. But to get to that octave, this key had to go up other steps. And steps, yes, just like walking up the stairs. These steps have names. The names are semitones. So, they are spelled like this. We will think of these as our steps. And we need to walk up these steps to go from my A0, or let's say that's the ground floor, all the way up to the top of the stairs, the A1. For our pitch to double, we must go up a certain amount of semitones to move up an octave. You all with me so far? Right. Now that we understand that, let's label our keys. Let me just quickly neaten this up. I'm going to start at C. This key is C. What comes after C? Well, D. What comes after D? E. You get the point. However, between E and F, there's no black key hanging from the ceiling. Okay, that's fine. Let's keep going. We have G. What comes after G? A, B, and then after B, just like we did with the A, we went up an octave. What names do I give the black keys? The names that we give them varies. As music producers, without a background history of musical theory, meaning that, hey, I did not grow up playing the piano, we'd probably say sharp, represented by the hashtag symbol. And we need to think of this symbol as up. However, if you are a person that grew up playing the piano, maybe the guitar, violin, etc., meaning that you learned music theory in detail or had formal training, then we'd use another symbol that looks like this funny B-looking thing over here, maybe an italic B. However, the main thing about it is that the arrow is the opposite way. When I take this C and I move up to this black key over here, that one step we said was a semitone. I will now call this C sharp. However, to get to this C sharp from the other direction, say I'm at D. Now the arrow is facing the other way, so that means I'm going backwards. Now as I'm going backwards, I'm going to change the name. I'm not going to say D sharp. I'm going to say D flat, represented by that funny symbol that looks like an italic B. Very easy. So another example, if I go to G and if I go up one semitone, now I will say that this is G sharp. But if I take it from the A and go backwards, I will call this A flat. Very, very easy. Now that we understand the naming, we can apply more names, more terms. And yes, it may seem confusing, difficult at first. Thank you for joining, Nkosinati. Now, as it might seem confusing at first, we can practice by literally writing down each key and looking at it every now and then. When I first started out and I struggled quite a lot with music theory, so I had helpers on my table, literally printouts. So let's look at this. We have C. If we go up a semitone, this becomes C sharp. And if we go up another semitone, this becomes D. However, from C to D, we don't call that a semitone. We'll call that a tone. So let's write those names down so it's much easier. Semitone, which means from a white key to a black key in this case, or from this white key to that white key. Basically, when you move one key, it's a semitone. Then we have the other word or the other term, which is a tone. Meaning, we went, in this case, from C to D. But it doesn't only mean that it applies to the white keys, it also applies to other keys. Let's fill this in with sharps and have a look at how that works. So E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, whoopsie, and then B. If I go from F sharp to G, then I moved a semitone. However, if I went from F sharp to G sharp to G sharp, then I moved a tone. How do we move from this to chords? What are chords? How do we understand it? Think of chords as more than one of these keys or notes being played together harmoniously. Sometimes when you play more than one of these notes together, it can sound pleasing, and sometimes it won't sound pleasing. When something sounds pleasing, we'll say it sounds consonant. When it doesn't sound pleasing, we'll say it sounds dissonant. But let's not worry too much about these intricate names. Let's look at tone and semitone, and another name for these that will be useful in helping us understand chords. So now, I'm going to say half step and whole step. A half step is a semitone and a whole step is a tone. A half step or a semitone means you move one key either up or down, and a whole step means you move two keys either up or down. Therefore, let's say if I am at E and I move a half step forward, I am going to move to F. If I move a half step backwards, I'm moving to the key of D sharp or E flat. So, let's take another one. Let's go to G. If I move a whole step forward, that means I'm going 1, 2. I'm going all the way to A, a whole step forward to A. And if I go a whole step backwards, 1, 2, I am going to F. How does this help us? Well, whole steps and half steps allow us to create our scales. Scales are a set of values within an octave or a set of keys within an octave that allows us to play a song in what we know as in key. That brings us to our next page, the scales. So today I will go through two main scales, the major and the minor. And what's different about them is very little. A major scale usually sounds happy. A minor scale has more of a sad kind of feeling in general. However, I know people who have broken rules and made minor songs sound happy. Now, how do we apply this? How do we make it? Well, we are going to use the words whole step and half step. Okay, a major scale has this certain formula. How do I apply this formula? What is the formula of the major scale? This is something we should commit to memory. The formula is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. Very simple. We will get to the application soon. Let's talk about the minor scale. Okay, how do we do this? Well, I went on Google many years ago. What is a minor scale? Oh, okay. It also has these funny W's and H's, and it has a different code. Well, the minor scale is whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. But how do we apply it? Remember, over here, we moved a half step. For example, from E to F. We go from D to D sharp. We go from C to C sharp. We moved a whole step. We went from A to G, or we can go from A to B. Using this, I've created a table for you guys to find the keys in any scale, in any major scale, in any minor scale. Let's do this together. So we were on F, so we went a whole step to G, a whole step to A half step to A sharp. Then we go another whole step to C. Then, okay, as we go along, we look at our code and we decode it according to the W or the H. So the next one is a whole step from C. That's going to be a D. Then a whole step from D. That's going to be an E. And then another half step. Okay, just a half step, another semitone. Where are we? We are back at F. So from the root note through the code or the major scale formula, we went from one F all the way to another F. In this manner, we are able to figure out exactly what keys or notes are in a specific scale. Meaning that if I literally, just clear. If I literally take out this F and put a different letter, maybe C, then I will be able to go whole step D, whole step E, half step F, etc., all the way until I get all the notes in the C major scale. It is the same with the minor scale. What I will do is, for example, take my A, put in my piano. Oh, there's a nice one here. Take my A, put in my piano, and then just work upwards. So from A, we will say whole step to B, whole step to half step to C. The next one is whole step to D. Then I will keep going E, F, G, A. We can fill out our minor scale formula. Quite simple, yeah? Now that we understand that, When we have resources and we look at something like this, it's not so intimidating. It will not demotivate us because we now have the confidence to say, I know what I see. I know what I am looking at. We can pinpoint now, okay, this F with a hash means that it's the black key F sharp. But at the bottom here, we have some numbers. Okay, what are these numbers? These numbers represent specific things. This is my C major scale. And we use numbers to represent the keys or the notes within a specific scale. What do I mean? Let's look at the minor at the bottom. The next one will be 2. The next one will be 3. Next one will be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I wonder. Well, 8 usually means it's the octave. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, these allow us to name our chord progressions, which then brings us to chords. Quite daunting? Usually, a chord is something that consists of 3 or more notes in general. You can have nice big future bass chords, or you can have plain and simple chain smoker chords. However, they are harmonious, consonant, sound quite good. But what is a chord? Well, let's look over here. After we identify the keys in our C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blah, 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 we usually go from the root note, the first chord, the C, we skip the even numbers and we go with the odd numbers only. Okay, 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. So notes 1, 3, and 5 make the scale. Sorry, make the chord in the scale. My dramatic effect never work over there. Okay, now we can safely switch to FL's piano roll. So let's get in a nice big piano roll. Look over here. Everything we looked at was looking at it from the perspective of a piano. In FL Studio, we take everything and we do it like this. And the reason for that is so we have better playability. We are able to input these MIDI notes into our piano roll on specific places, on specific keys. And we know these keys now. We understand it. So how do we utilize it to our potential? Let's recap. Okay, we said, for example, C major scale. We had a root note C. And then we figured out all the keys in the scale. We said C was whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. These are the notes in my C major scale. And then we said that we are going to make a chord. And we said that it's the first one. And we skip the even numbers and we only take the odd numbers. Well, if I remove the even numbers and only leave the odd numbers, I have a chord. Now, I can take that one away from the top. I don't need it. I'm just going to look at this chord here, which is called a triad, meaning it's the 1, it's the 3, and the 5. Let's match it up against our full scale. So again, this is our full C major scale. And again, what did we leave out? We left out the second, and the fourth. Very simple. And if we want to make any major scale, there is a faster way of doing that. What you can do is, you can say, for example, I want to make an E major scale. So, put your root note as E. Then, what you do is, count 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And put a note there. After you count 4, count 3. 1, 2, 3. And then put a note there. And what's amazing about this is that if you take the root note and place it on any other key, it automatically becomes the major chord of that key. So if I bring the bottom note to B, that's a B major chord. If I bring the bottom note to C sharp, that's a C sharp major chord. Simple, efficient. Now that we understand that, let's look at the minor chord. Exact same thing. We learned the formula. We learned how to input it in the table. Let's take A minor. A minor, we went whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. And then we take the first, we take the third, and we take the fifth. And there we have our minor triad, or the A minor chord, using note 1, not note 2, note 3, and note 5. Simple. Faster way to make a minor chord? Well, put your root note on anything. Let's put it on D. What I will do from D is I will count 1, 2, 3, not 4. In a major chord, we counted 4. In a minor chord, I'm going to count 3. And then I will count 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the major chord, I did 4, 3. In the minor chord, I did 3, 4. If I put them next to each other, you will notice there is a difference. In the minor chord, it's one below the major. And these small changes make a huge difference to the sound. So now we know how to make a chord. How do we name the chords? How do we name the note? If I'm making the chord C major, the first, not the second, the third, and the fifth. And if I continue up in that manner, I can go up to the 7th. I can go up to the 9th, but we don't need to make such large chords. And we can do multiple things to our chords. Let's open up a quick piano. Right, in this piano, make a chord easily, just like this. I can change the way it sounds or the way we perceive it, up to you. I can take the root note, I can move it from C5 to C6, up an octave. Let's hear over here. From here, but now here. It's still the C major chord, but with some slight change to it. Let me do that to another note. I'm going to take the third of the C major chord in this case, which is the E, and I'm going to move it up one octave from E5 to E6. Let's move it back down. Move it back up. Quite a nice change. We can play around. These are called inversions. Moving the root note up one octave is the first inversion, and then moving the second one, the second note in the chord, or the third up one octave, is the second inversion. But Making a chord and making a chord progression, quite difficult. So what I did was I created some stamps for you. A stamp is basically using ghost notes. Let me take a major stamp. All these I will give it to y'all. Drag and drop, meaning that using ghost notes, when I open my instrument, I will see something like this. How do we activate it and deactivate it? We go to this little arrow here, press helpers, and put the tick on ghost channels. Don't use editable ghosts. I had some bad experiences and lost a lot in that process. So now, the C was my 1, yeah? The E was my 3rd, the G was my 5th. How do I make a chord? Do I just randomly place notes? Well, I can randomly place notes, but will it really work the best? Can work. And let's take the most common chord progression. The most common chord progression is 1, 5, 6, 4. 1, 5, 6, 4, meaning that we use the 1st, we use the 5th. What's the 5th? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The G. Let's bring it down here. The 1st, the 5th, the 6th, and the 4th. And from these, I will say in the C major scale, C, E, G is my 1st chord. G, B, D is my 5th chord in the scale. A is my 6th. It will be A, C, E, and then F, A, C. That will be my 4th chord in the scale. And putting it together, playing around with them, and using the background ghost channel will allow you to make multiple or different chord progressions the way you like. It will also help you make better melodies. For example, if I'm making this melody like this, I can say, okay, take a couple of notes, put it, listen to it, see can they work, for example. And using these helpers will really speed up the process. What I did was I included many different ones in different keys in the major and minor scales. Well, all the keys, all the way from A to G sharp. Now that you understand that part, it will be much more easier for you to develop a faster workflow when making music. So what I've included for everyone is some resources, some documents to have a look through, to read, maybe print it out, keep it next to you. Some printouts of all the major scales and minor scales. I input some samples, a sample pack. I made those stamps as well as stems for one of my unreleased songs, which you can actually have fun with. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate the time that you all took out to watch me. Cheers, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you, Alex. Bye bye.